there's friction points to scaling your business. So one of these rules is called the 1-3-10 rule. What's the 1-3-10 rule? You'll go through the system, tools, frameworks, and many times the people that got you from 1 to 3 to 10 won't be the same as you go 2 jumps up. You can usually do it through and up to 2 jumps, but usually not beyond 2 jumps, unless they're a unicorn, which are also rare. So 1-3-10, especially if you're really committed to growing. Now, who does it start with? It starts with you. You're not going to scale if you don't scale you. Getting your team, your clients, your partners, your vendors all on the same page, right? And that comes to a communication style, right? So weekly huddles, regular communication. Right now is a great time of year. There's always the great time of year to be communicating with you, your team, your partners, your vendors on your values, your vision, your operating model, right? Some people would call this values-based marketing, values-based selling. If you're not using it, what's that costing you? Right? Not only with your team, but also with your clients. And again, if we work together, we help get that integrated. Another thing is related to ROI. We all want to do things with an ROI factor. And I want to give you all of you a new way to look at ROI in what you do. And ROI, right, in the bigger picture of things. In my early years, one of the mistakes, I made almost all of my decisions based on true ROI dollars. And I don't know about you, but I've run into situations where I've worked with people I didn't like that much. They were drainers. They were also not like people I'd want to introduce to my family at times when I really learned about them, those sorts of things. So the ROI can be great, but then you start to question and doubt. At least I did question myself of oh, wow, I'm working with this group. Okay, well, the ROI. So I'd encourage you to consider shifting your ROI focus to what we call ROI to the 4th power. What is ROI to the 4th power? Return on investment, that's the first layer. Second layer is return on the interaction with that group or people. Number 3 is return on impact that it has beyond just dollars. And then lastly is the return on implementation, because there's nothing worse than having something that's got potential, but you can't implement it, right? So return on investment, return on impact, return on implementation, and return on the interaction, right? So Mike, I hope that serves you as well. So those are great. And that's a great way to kick off. Are you already learning some good stuff to help you immediately? Right? How many, if you could just let me see your hands pop up. My hands are popping up, but they're a little bit blocked off. So let's do a quick high five. I just want to do a quick high five with you. You can do a double five with me because I'm weird, or you could just do a single high five. All right, cool. All right. Well, we're just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. We're just getting started. So I want to walk into what is scaling. What does it mean to scale? What's the difference between scaling and scale? Right now, by the way, you might see as I'm looking, I got a camera here, I got a screen and a camera here, I got a camera and a screen here, and I got another one here and another one here. So if I'm bouncing around, just understand it's because I'm ADD, or whatever it is. And also I've got a lot of things stimulating me here to figure out which one I'm going to actually look at. So scale versus scale. Scaling. Scale. This is essentially operating at max efficiency and effectiveness with your systems and also having healthy profits. That's the short version, right? Now, by the way, I'm not going to do it here just for sake of time, but I've always been fascinated to learn, and I love looking up words. So if you want to have fun, like for example, I'm going to shift this to marketing a little bit, because go look up the definition of client versus customer. And you'll see one of the definitions of client is basically you're a steward of, right, and a custodian of their results and what is produced, what is given. Customers, on the other hand, it talks about it being transactional. So even like getting your team on the same page, language-wise, mental-wise, how you show up to serve at the highest level, right? Language matters, as you know. So have fun, like looking up words. Don't just sit there and take it in. Like if I were you, I would recommend go look up in the dictionary and pick the one that connects to you. This I just kind of interpreted and put a hybrid version. This is a hybrid version. In other words, this version is do things right and do the right things. Because there's nothing worse. Think about this. I got a ladder in my hand and I lean it on the wall. Good job. But what if it's on the wrong wall? Have you ever done that before? I've done that 10 million times. I don't know, in my 34-year business career. There's nothing worse than leaning a ladder on the wrong wall, right? So now let's go to scaling. Scaling is increasing and growing. Now, here we start into some KPIs, benchmarks, and there's different people, different experts who are going to report their truth, and that's fine. I like to try to narrow things down. There's people that talk about different breaking points in business, and there's like 12 of them, 14. Who can remember that? So I want to give you a version that I learned early on from one of my early mentors. His name was Bill. I've had a bunch investing, probably like all of you. I've invested a lot of money, millions of dollars in training, coaching, consulting, and getting access to some of the best minds in the world, and still do that today. There's friction points to scaling your business. So one of these rules is called the 1-3-10 rule. What's the 1-3-10 rule? You'll go through the systems, tools, frameworks, and many times the people that got you from 1 to 3 to 10 won't be the same as you go 2 jumps up. Can usually do it through and up to 2 jumps, but usually not beyond 2 jumps, unless they're a unicorn, which are also rare, right? So 1-3-10, especially if you're really committed to growing. Now, who does it start with? It starts with you. You're not going to scale if you don't scale you. If you don't scale your capabilities and understanding those 5 pieces in the business roadmap, the 5 core pieces in the marketing or direct response branding roadmap, and the 6 key elements in the sales roadmap. Like if you don't scale you, at least to understand like what is high performance. Like, let me give you a quick example, because it doesn't mean you have to do these things. Like just like Jerry Jones, who owns the Dallas Cowboys, does not play on Sundays in the NFL, but he's arguably one of the better owners in the game. Maybe not general managers, but owners. The Robert Kraft, who owns the Patriots. Some would say he's got one of the most successful, if not the most successful NFL franchise going right now, but he doesn't play on Sundays. You don't have to play on Sundays to understand what high performance is in these 3 gears, if you will, right? So the friction points of 1-3-10. So let's just go to the basics. I'll talk about $100,000 business, 300,000 to $1 million. So 2 jumps, the people, the systems, the tools can many times handle 2 jumps, but when it starts to go beyond those 2 layers, it starts to become too much friction. You got to re-engineer it, right? So if you've ever experienced it, just look at those numbers and see if where are you hitting up against those friction points. 1-3-10. The next would be 100,000, 300,000, $1 million, 1 million, 3 million, 10 million, 10 million, 30 million, 100 million, 100 million, 300 million, $1 billion. Now, by the way, let me give you some, things to be excited, hopefully to get inspired, to get encouraged, right? Do you realize that wherever you're at in your business right now, there are only 9% of companies that do over $1 million a year in business and top line revenue. There's only 9%. 91% of your competition is doing under $1 million. So that should give you hope, because again, most of them see themselves as small. Most of them over 68%, I believe, or 67%. And depending on which stat you look at, it might be 65, it might be 69, whatever. So 67% don't have any team members. I wonder if that's why they're not really growing, because most people suck at actually knowing how to actually bring in team members fractionally or full on. But that's one of the benchmarks of like growth. And we'll get to what to measure and a KPI around that here in a little bit as well, right? So 9%. So if you're above $1 million, congratulations. You're in a good category, top 9%. But let's not stop there. Why not set your sights if you're just on the lower level or under 5 million right now? Why not set a goal to get to 3 million and then 10 million? Only 0.004% of companies get to 10 million or more in a year. Why not you? I've had multiple of my own, and we've worked with multiple clients that we've helped exceed that and break through that threshold as well, right? You can do it. Start to envision, what capabilities do I need to get? What capabilities do you need to get integrated in those 3 gears that can help you jump those 2 levels? Let's say from where you are to 10 million plus, ideally, if that's a goal. By the way, billion dollar company, depending on which statute layer, you'll see there's in the United States, 3,000 and 9,000 companies in the United States that are at the $1 billion status. Why not? Why not you? Do you think when Steve Jobs was sitting in his garage, he really was thinking about that he could be a $1 billion company, or the Packard company, or Elon Musk? Yeah, they had a vision. They had a vision like you, though, and they started small. Do you realize that Sam Walton, for 10 years, was at $1 million or under? The first 10 years of his business career is at $1 million or under, and he had 2 small little dinky locations. In those first couple of years, we're only doing 100,000 per location. Did you know that? So if Sam Walton can become one of the wealthiest families in the world, generational wealth, and I hope that you even write that word down, go for generational wealth. Play big. And wealth means a lot of things, and I believe wealth means mental, physical, social, spiritually, emotionally, and financially. Not just money and dollars, but it's a scorecard. But also it's those other things: mental, physical, social, spiritual, emotional, and financial. Play big. You can do it with the right system. So Here's another fact and truth. You can't build a $10 million company with $1 million plan. And so this was a big mistake. I'm going to talk about some of my damaging confession and elephant in the room here in a few minutes, but you can't build a $10 million business with $1 million plan, right? You can't build a $1 million business with a $200,000 plan or skill set, right? So here's another key question to ask yourself. If you took 90 days off in your business right now, what would happen? If you took 90 days off, what would happen? How far would those wheels come off? And what would be the repercussions? If it's that much damage, then you got to really, you got to make some shifts, right? What systems and skills would be broken if you took 90 days off? And you probably want to write these down. So write these down right now, and I challenge you to do that right now while it's fresh and we're kind of diving into it. And again, we're going to go deeper here as we go. And these are building blocks that build on each other. But what system skills would be broken, and what people couldn't keep up with you? What clients would you not want to have as you grow, right? So if you took 90 days off, what would it be like? What would be broken? And who might be broken, or at least broke, right? And what people couldn't keep up. Ideally, you've got some ideas. So I'm going to share my quick story, and through my story, hopefully you get some insights for you that, by the way, it'll be all right as long as you do some of the key things in those 3 gears we're talking about today. So some of my scaling mistakes, I had a DIY mentality. I don't know if you can relate to that. And I didn't understand really in the beginning that to scale anything, you got to scale you first, right? You got to scale your capabilities. You got to scale the teamwork, the efficiency, and things like that. And then I also was stuck in multiple roles. I don't know if you can relate to this. In fact, I want to give you a couple quick examples that I think will demonstrate this, because although I had seen this before, it wasn't probably till the last 10 years that this really connected. But usually we all go through an evolution in business or a growth transformation in business if we choose to, but many people stay stuck. And what I realized when I was hitting my break points in growth, it was really because I hadn't transcended to that next level. And I want to just break down our version of this. So, I remember being a kid and I was entrepreneurial, and I remember I had a couple businesses, I grew up in the inner city of Detroit, so I shoveled snow and I made money, and I cut people's lawns before landscaping was a landscaping thing. And I made money, and I took people's trash out, and I did stuff to make money because we were poor and I didn't like being poor. So I wanted to make money. And then I would get candy for a wholesale price, and I would go to the grocery store and sell it outside for fundraising, but it was partially our family fundraising for me as a kid, on top of what I was doing in sports. So, we have a student experience. And then, usually what happens is we're growing, maybe, through high school, college, whatever, we become the technician or operator. Some would even call this the mechanic of the things in the business. Sales, marketing, blah, blah, blah. A technician and operator. Then what happens is usually we become a manager. If we continue to evolve, continue to grow, continue to, want to be more, do more, get more, probably like all of you. Then we become an owner. And that the first time can be a freak show. Do you realize that over 50% of all companies who start their first company fail? In fact, it's higher than that. It's closer to 70 to 80%, but they can't track fully all the way through the multiple decades that it might take to really track it. But you become an owner. Then what happens is either you quit and go back, or you step in and you recommit and realize that failure is not failure. Failure is just an opportunity to learn. And it's really just getting you one step closer, and that other people have gone through it. And so if other people have done it, why not me? Why not now? Why not this? And so we go from owner to a CEO mentality. And that's when we start to really free ourselves up and really start to see the situation of breaking some things. And now for me, where this really happened is I ended up, and I'll keep this really short, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I ended up in a hospital. It was about 15 years ago, actually, maybe 20, close to 20. And I was working hard. We were growing our business. We were doing actually really well at that time, so to speak, on a surface level. And one morning I woke up, it was a couple of weeks after my son was born, and I woke up with some chest pains. And I don't know if you've ever had it. Hopefully you never do, knock on wood. And I ended up going to the hospital, and all hell broke loose when I got to the hospital after they did some basic tests. I ended up on a gurney. I ended up in the hospital for 4 days. I had a surgery, exploratory. Ended up being in many ways just a false alarm. But I remember as part of the process before the heart in exploration surgery, whatever you want to call it, they wanted to have me sign this disclaimer. And it was that disclaimer that woke me up. And the disclaimer, now in conversion rates, this is not going to sound like, but it was like something like, you have a 1 in 500 chance of dying with this heart procedure we're going to do. Now in conversion rates, like who cares about what? batting average, like when I was playing ball or playing football, whatever, they 1 in 5, whatever. But when you start talking about dying, like for me at that time in my life, it was a wake up call. And then I got reinvigorated into some of the mentoring and coaching and working with advisors like we work with our clients. And, I ended up having a mind shift of what I really wanted, what I didn't want, and a whole lot more. I don't know if you've ever been there. And what ended up happening is I ultimately decided I'm going to look to sell my company. I started going through a lot of these scaling things we're talking about today. And I realized what was not working, what was working, and a couple of key elements that I realized very fast in talking to a lot of experts, billions of dollars in experts. There's two main systems that really can have the most valuable value in a small business. Number one is your marketing system. Number two is your sales system. So I started putting a lot of emphasis in, and I'm going to show you examples of this today as we go. The marketing system, if you want to boost the value, boost the cash flow, get investor money, potentially create a merger acquisition opportunity, acquire companies with minimal money down or funding, you can do it by building systems that run the business. And that's what we did. And ultimately I was able to sell the company. We grew that thing to over 25 plus million a year, close to 30 a year. Before I sold it, it was over 100 million, roughly 100 million in overall impact before I sold it, and sold that business. And then also sold a media business that had grown to 8 figures. It was shifting from these lower levels up to more of like a chairman to really get the systems and a workflow in place. And what do I mean by that? In the beginning, you might be small and you might even have a small team. And, right now with all kinds of things going on, costs are higher. So you do more things with less, right? And here's another damaging confession. I had my name in all of these boxes. I was the visionary and CEO, and I was the implementer, right? Running execution. I was the person in charge of sales. I was the person in charge of marketing. I was the person in charge of operations and fulfillment. I was the one in charge of finances. No wonder I felt burnout and ended up in a damn hospital. I don't know if you could relate. I can laugh about it now. It was pretty serious at the time when I thought I was going to die. And as we grew our company, and ultimately the company grew to over about 200 employees. That's where we grew it to before we sold it. And that was a big part of it, was all these systems we had. We had a chief sales officer. They had different titles, but this is the way the structure was: chief marketing officer, chief financial, chief fulfillment officer, and then all the pieces underneath. Some of you might even want to take a picture of this, because this is a blueprint to a $20 million a year business. If that's not what you want, then, well, no big deal. But if it is what you want, well, this is literally the roles, descriptions, and capabilities that you'll want to have to fill it. And if you don't have it filled, you're probably missing something to be able to get to that next level. And you might even want to take a picture, because you might come to us if we're working together and go, okay, well, I'm at 1 million. I just want to get to 3 as my next big bump. Well, what do I need to fill? Well, here's what I would, do you have an org chart laid out today? And do you have an org chart with your real focus, your commitment focus of where you want to go in the next 1 to 3 years? Laid out in advance, a vision of this. If you don't, that's something to write on the list of action step. Write out my org chart for 1 to 3 years from now and get these things filled in place. So that helped immensely. I was also not focused on the math formulas. We'll talk more about math formulas as we go, but essentially many times, almost 99 out of 100 clients we've worked with over the last 20 years, when we ask them, well, what are your goals, and like how many services or products with the suite of things that you have do you have to sell to hit your numbers that you're telling me you want to hit? And most people have never even worked it out. When we work with our clients, when we work with you, if we ever do that, we have a scorecard that we start entering in to fill out these formulas to figure out how many of how many. And you can do this manually. You can get a more fancy build a spreadsheet, but I would even sit down and go, okay, well, how many, like if you want to generate $1 million extra in business right now, or 10 million. Well, one path to get to 10 million is just sell one person a $10 million service or product. Now, some of you might react to that. Oh, there's no way. Well, there's lots of people who do that. One of our clients, in fact, helps people get funding, and literally helps them get funding, low dollars, but he's got clients who've gotten $100 million in funding. That's one client who writes a private equity company, writes a check, essentially puts it in their bank account to give them cash flow to be able to grow. That's thinking at a different level, though. Who is your customer? Who do you want it to be? Do you want it to be investors? Then start actually building the business to be ready to sell to investors while you're building your value with current clients, customers, and whatever you sell now. How many products? And so when we built that company, what started is like this book that, yes, I was selling this book for 20 some dollars. Well, it was free plus shipping, but then we had some upgrades on it. And now I look back, I go, how did I even let this out the door looking like this? But literally we had hundreds and thousands of people buy this. At the time, I was proud of it, but I didn't let logistics or perfection get in the way of movement. This right here, this manuscript that we started selling led to us having approximately 120 different products and services, including software, web pages, done for you traffic, done for you campaigns that people could buy. And because we had the product suite filled of a lot of different things that solved the problems that our ideal clients had, it's part of how we grew the way we did. It's part of how you can grow. It's the math, though. It's the math to freedom. And don't get hung up on how many, but start doing at least the first step of the math with what you got, and then go, okay, well, what would we need to have? Like some of you that are in the service business, you might either acquire a company or you might add on a new service like solar and contract somebody solar, and it would add an amazing revenue stream to your business. It's already a customer you own or you want to own because you want to own the house. Or if you're a chiropractor business, you might have a certain type of technology. And there's all kinds of technologies, but I'll just use one that most of you would be familiar with, like stem cells. You might add stem cells, or you might add, bring in a specialist that does liposuction. Although, some people look at it, people will pay money for high value type services like this to look better, feel better, to, in their own mind, be better. Like, what would that be worth for you? So how many? Next, number 7 is fragmented marketing, lack of a playbook. We're going to walk through a lot of that here in our time together today. Lack of understanding of asset building, of marketing, ignorant to the benchmarks and financials. Look at that. Having amateurs instead of pros. Having amateurs instead of pros for execution. This is so huge. For so long, I did this with, I built my companies, and I've seen a lot of our clients where, like, there's actually one I'm thinking of right now that's on here that we're working with. They got handcuffed. You want to talk about the ultimate handcuffs in their business? They didn't own their web assets. They didn't own their intellectual property on those assets. They didn't own their Google ads. The agency they worked with that they had farmed out trusted. They signed a contract that agency owned all their stuff. We came in and literally helped rebuild everything from scratch. And, last week, this particular client I'm speaking of, I believe it was last week, it might've been the week before, had over 50 to 60 appointments, small budget, big results, big outcomes. We've helped them build over, I think over 300 to 400 content articles in just the last 9 months. They're a dominating force with simple marketing to be done because they're working with a pro, right? Another key one that I didn't know, I didn't understand the power of revenue per team member. And we'll get into some Q&A on some of these things because I just want to at least introduce you to some of this. But what some of you should be looking at this. How do you know when to grow? How do you know where you're at? Like, if you have 10 people and your business is, doing $1 million in revenue, you're probably hitting some friction points. And again, because of fractional things today, you want to be thinking and bring people together that ultimately add up to a full-time payout, compensation, et cetera, to ultimately get these numbers. But revenue per team member is such an important key metric that's simple, that can help you decide like how you're growing, how you're scaling, and or when you're ready to go to the next level. Are you all learning some good stuff already in the first hour? If you're learning some good stuff, can you type yes in the chat window for me? All right. For me, after focusing on these key areas, it changed my life. Being able to grow 2 companies to 8 figures and then be able to exit and sell them today, get the ability to do what we want, not because we have to anymore, is such a gift, all because of getting a little bit of mastery in the business roadmap. The business roadmap, which includes getting clear on your vision and growth plan and the strategy involved with it, getting dialed in on marketing, getting a system for marketing, getting a system for sale, having better systems for fulfillment and operations, and then also really understanding benchmark. Right? We meet, our financial team, we meet with some people that are known as financial experts, and we sit down with them and start analyzing numbers and start throwing some of the things that we do out. They're like, oh my God, like, and this is just because of learning through the school of hard knocks and making a bunch of mistakes. It's why some of our clients have us help them set up valuations, do estimate valuations, have us prepare for them to go public, help them prepare to sell and exit, all of those sorts of things. It's a strategic byproduct of us plus the network we built with our team of experts that are here. Now, some of you are new to our world, so I'm going to real quick, you might be wondering, like, we might have got introduced a couple of weeks ago or something. You're like, who the hell are you? I don't even know who you are. So my name is Dan Kuschell. I grew up in the inner city of Detroit. Part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is my dad struggled with 2 businesses. We were on welfare as a kid, and I kind of mentioned the strain of that earlier. When I started my first business all the way back in 1992, we had some good results, but I realized I didn't know how to run a business. And I also found myself in the manual labor trap, maybe like a lot of people. And today, Number one, I'm a husband. Number 1A, I'm a dad. Number 1C, I'm a pop to my beautiful grandbaby Peyton. And I'm the founder of this company, Breakthrough 3X, investor, angel investor, and also multiple other companies, author of 4 best-selling books. Forbes rated our show, Growth to Freedom, our podcast. And some of you don't even know we have these things. So I'm doing a quick highlight. Fast forward in our work over the years, we've been able to work with over 250,000 clients, over 5,000 CEOs and founders from 180 industries. It's actually now over 13 countries. Been able to partner and do things with people like Richard Branson, some of the people I mentioned earlier, Bill Rasmussen, Dean. So, a lot of people like this sold 2 companies, not just one, all because of getting more clarity around these 10 things and a few others. So I encourage you to look at these 10 things and really dial in and use this as a placemat. I would, ideally get a picture of this and put it up, and I'd be really ranking yourself weekly, daily, monthly on this. And we have a checklist, by the way, called the CEO's checklist, that if you want it, send us a message at help@breakthrough3x.com and we can get it in your hands so you can use it, because it literally has this done for you. And I have it up on my wall. I've been using a version of it for 30 years. That I created, and it's evolved over time, of course, and now we've made it available to you as a client. And if you're here, I want to give it to you. Like, you don't have to be a client per se in our one-to-one work that we do to help companies grow and scale the way we're talking about. I want to give you these things because whether we work together or not, ideally you go, wow, they were amazing. Like, they give us so much value. So all that being said, I challenge you to dial into these 5 key things and ask yourself, if you put focus and attention on these critical areas we've been talking about today, do you feel that you could grow? Do you feel, are you inspired to some degree to start seeing maybe how if you drew that out, and I challenge you to start thinking bigger, that you're starting to see you scaling. You're seeing you with greater capabilities in your ability to have a growth plan, and also and strategy, your ability to have a marketing plan, your ability to have a sales plan, your ability to have a fulfillment plan, teamwork, as well as the finance stuff dialed in. And by getting the greater capabilities, how would it impact you? How would it impact you? And here's the best part. We're just getting started here. We're just getting started. So here's what I want to do. We're going to go into another quick exercise for you. What I want you to do from everything we've covered in this first segment together, what are the key action steps from this section that you're going to take? I know we've gotten a lot to you in a short period of time. What are the key items you're not doing? And you ideally, you've kind of been tabling some of the things. You can go back and ideally just pull the things. Really, one of the great ways, by the way, it's a great lesson in momentum, is taking things and pulling it forward. Why do I do these check-ins throughout the way we do it? Every about 20 minutes, by the way, and that isn't intentional for those of you that do stuff like this. About every 20 minutes, we're having you do this to gather info so that you can go back and then pull it forward. And now when we're saying, hey, now go ahead and take the most important, because would you all agree there's a big difference between important and most important? Some of you are playing games or will be playing games where that becomes a game changer, and your not to-do list becomes far more important than your to-do list. And if you really want to have a mental game shift on this, is you want to have a to-do list, a not to-do list, and not now list, especially for those of you who are creative, those of you who go fast, those of you who run wild out in the market. I think I learned this the first time from David Bach, some 25 years ago or whatever the case might be, whenever it was. And I've got a wall full of my not now list. Why? Because I can have a tendency to go into a gap, which means it's a trap, which means I feel anxiety, which it means it feels I'm, feeling a lot of extra pressure and friction, maybe like you. And a to-do list, not to-do list, and a not now list really creates freedom. And so why do we pull these things forward from beginning through now? Is it helps you just get clarity, because I don't want you to have, although you probably will have 100 things sprinkled through our day together today, that ideally you can identify the 3 to 5 that are the absolute biggest little hinges that are going to swing big doors. The 20% that's a little hinge that swings a big giant door. That's what I want for you. So what I want you to do is let's take 5 minutes and go through your notes, pull it forward, and answer these 4 questions. What are your key action steps from the section? What are the key items you're not doing that you should be? Who are 1 to 3 people or skills? And you might think of it in skills. Who are the 1 to 3 people and skills, or what are the skills you need to get in place? And then what are your key takeaways? So Ken, if you want to cue that up, 5-minute countdown, go ahead and make those notes. I'll check in probably 3 minutes just to see where we're at on this as well. And by the way, while we're doing this, you can take a break in this 5-minute window as well while you're doing your notes. So if you get done a little early, but we will get started minimally in 5 minutes. All right. If you want to go faster, maybe like Kevin, maybe like several of our clients we've been talking about already, then I want to invite you to apply. Why? In our program, we work one-on-one with you as a personal advisor. We give you accountability. We give you a peer success team. We give you weekly sprints that matches out to quarterly and annual goals, daily support, execution, and an implementation team. We give you the proven roadmaps and tools. We give you exposure. We help you level up your mental game. We help you with the financial benchmarking so you're not hit with surprises of what's not working and why. Because we get there way before that. We give you access to our team of tech support. And if you'd like our help with helping you grow your business exponentially, to help you implement and execute the marketing for you, well, I invite you to go to this link. You can do this now before they get all booked up, because we'll have a certain amount we make available each week. You can go to breakthrough3x.com/apply. We'll walk through a specific custom plan for you. That's what it's about, just like we did for Kevin, just like we've done with every client that we've worked with. We had an initial one-to-one conversation. And I know that breaks a lot of rules. We're going to talk about some of that nonsense in a minute that you've been taught, that you've been misled to not work for you. We're going to have a one-to-one conversation. We're going to review your business. And then we're going to go, here's 3 to 5 key things that you could implement that are going to be needle movers. And if you'd like that, and you'd like to learn how we can help you that way, then go to breakthrough3x.com/apply. What is Breakthrough 3x? We're a fractional CMO marketing team that brings you the tools, the systems, the team to help you execute and implement. Our model is we feed you fish and we teach you to fish, which makes it unlike masterminds, coaching, unlike agencies. It's a hybrid, bringing the best of the best together, giving you access to our team of copywriters, graphic designers, traffic experts, SEO team, email marketing pros, and more. And if we have a fit, and only if we have a fit and there's a match, what ends up happening, what's included when we work together, you get up to 26 one-to-one sessions in a year. You get our bonus day that we do once a year. You get tech onboarding setup. We walk you through Breakthrough 3X University that's customized to you. I believe it was Walter a little bit earlier was sharing the one thing for him that's been most valuable is like the sales scripting that we're making available. Other people, it will be how to go and run certain ad campaigns to drive webinar attendees and a whole lot. We customize it to you, because do you really need another course? Tell me, do you? You don't need another course. You don't need another idea. You need that stuff like you need a hole in your ear. You need useful, relevant things right now to do now, and then what next? Would you agree? And if not, you could say that too. We're going to introduce you to the marketing and business KPIs based on thousands of clients we've worked with over years. You get access to our annual content calendar build out. We help you build out your content calendar so it's in one place for you and your team, whether it's all internal or whether it's fractional or anywhere in between. We also give you access to our growth planner, empathy map. Many of our clients have told us this one thing, we call it Beyond the Avatar process, that we do with research in advance for you, for your client, is worth the whole year working with us, just alone, because they have much more clarity on their messaging. On top of that, we give you swipe files. Now, some of you have gotten our book and some of our resources, some of those things are in there, but again, we customize it. For example, here's an example of a swipe file. We built this for a client, but we have this internally, plus we have dozens and dozens and dozens of clients we built these for. Literally, how great would it be if you could run a webinar or a live cast or a challenge, they're all kind of the same thing, and you were able to generate 228 new clients in 17 days that produced over $350,000 in revenue, and that doesn't include the back-end revenue. Would you like that blueprint? Like, this is what you get with us, right? On top of that, we give you access to bonus trainings. Our experts on our team are some of the best in the world at finance, management, and hiring to help create systems for that with you. You get access as a fractional CMO and CEO. You get access to a project manager that helps drive your, if we're fit. You get our team of copywriters, tech, automations, SEO, content. You get our traffic team that can run traffic for you. Again, we customize it to you. So all that being said, even if you wanted to write a check this second, just based on what we just covered, you couldn't. We got to see if we're a good fit. We got to see if there's alignment. We see if our values, see if there's opportunity. Our highest value client has paid us over about $1 million. We've helped them grow by over 10 million. We expect if we work together, we're going to be free to you, just like we are with our other clients. So if you want to learn more about how to be able to set this up for your business and have us do what we do best, which is help clients grow exponentially and implement it with our team of experts, then go to breakthrough3x.com/apply. That's breakthrough3x.com/apply. Now, with that being said, one of the first most important points in this journey, especially as you're looking at getting more new leads, more conversions, higher value clients. Begin with the end in mind.